The echoes of battle still rang in the air as Hubi growled in frustration, pushing the woman in his grasp towards Chen Yang. That bastard. I don't know how he managed to fell the C-tier scaled beast with so few profound acupoints, but he did it. Chen Yang, calm and unbothered, pushed the woman aside and raised an eyebrow. What happened? Hubi, visibly vexed, gritted his teeth. That's what I want to know. I'll send someone to your manor with the beast core tomorrow. With that, he stormed off, leaving Chen Yang to give the woman one last glance before departing. Meanwhile, Han Li limped into the dim hall, his body scarred from battle, his legs screaming in agony with each step. The horned man awaited him, a grin crossing his features. You did better than I expected. Hand over your badge. Han Li complied, and the horned man waved a golden baton over it, adding 20 profound points with a flick of his wrist. Han Li's spirits lifted as the badge was returned to him. Then, with a casual wave, two imposing figures clad in dark armor entered the hall. Without warning, they seized Han Li, their grip like iron, and hoisted him into the air. Panic surged through him as he struggled, but the duo's hands were unyielding, their touch colder than ice itself. Fear not, the horned man said with a voice that carried no hint of empathy. Your injuries are severe. They'll take you to receive treatment. Han Li, sensing no escape, ceased his struggles, allowing the armored figures to drag him into a hidden side passage. The path was long and dark, leading to a cavernous stone chamber, at the heart of which lay a vast pool of viscous, crimson liquid. The air was thick with a strange, bloody aroma, but instead of repelling him, it revitalized Han Li, easing the pain that gripped his body. The two figures tossed him into the pool without ceremony, and Han Li let out a cry of agony as the liquid burned against his skin. Its heat surged into him, carrying with it a healing force that worked swiftly to mend his wounds. The figures, speaking in their hollow, raspy tones, informed him, You have 1 hour. The hours passed in a blur, and Han Li's body, once broken and feeble, began to repair itself at an alarming rate. Just as he was nearing full recovery, another gladiator, a man with peculiar corkscrew patterns on his face, was thrown into the pool beside him. The man, badly wounded, immediately began absorbing the healing energy of the blood pond. You're Li Feiyu, aren't you? The man asked, recognizing Han Li. I saw your battle. Impressive work with the tiger-scaled beast. Not many from our area could have done it. You're too kind, Han Li replied humbly, though his thoughts were preoccupied with the dangers ahead. The man introduced himself as Chen Lin, a fellow gladiator from the 9th area. Chen Lin shared news of Scarface's grudge and the looming threat of Toxic Dragon. Be cautious, he warned. Toxic Dragon is a powerful foe, having opened 70 profound acupoints. Right now, you're no match for him. Han Li listened intently, weighing his options. After some more conversation, the two armor-clad figures declared the end of Han Li's healing session, and he emerged from the blood pond, his body restored. Chen Lin offered parting words of advice. Toxic Dragon is recovering, but don't let your guard down. With gratitude, Han Li departed, his mind focused on the preparations ahead. After exchanging his profound points for tarot beast cores, he returned to the 9th area, where he was greeted with praise, yet he could sense the lingering hostility of Scarface. Their eyes met, and the enmity was clear. But Han Li, mindful of Chen Lin's warnings, chose to retreat into his room, preparing for the challenges to come. Han Li only released a quiet breath once he returned to his quarters in the 9th sector, as though setting aside the edge of a drawn blade. Steadying his spirit, he closed his eyes and circulated the wingform ascension arts, guiding the tiger-scaled beast core within his body. Beast cores could preserve star power for a time, yet loss was inevitable, and fresh cores were harder to come by than spirit gold. Though he had claimed victory in the arena, the struggle had brushed far too close to death's door. In this brutal land, only swift growth and strength could carve a path to survival. The beast core slowly dissolved, transforming into a dense whirl of star power. As a C-tier scaled beast, its reserves far surpassed those of the tarot beast cores he had once purchased. Yet like them, its power was wild and violent, surging chaotically through his meridians. Star power leaked from his body in shimmering wisps, but Han Li remained calm. From within him, the heaven-controlling vial released a powerful pull, drawing the scattered energy back and refining it cleanly. Through prior refinement, Hanli had realized its function mirrored how it absorbed moonlight. Only now the process unfolded inside his body rather than beneath the open sky. Clearly, star power and lunar essence shared hidden kinship. Without the vial's aid, he doubted he could have absorbed even a fraction of the tarot beast cores, perhaps less than 1 in 1,000. Even with the tiger-scaled beast core, he would have gained no more than a few percent. Yet now, nearly all of it flowed into him like a tamed river. No wonder scaled beast cores strengthened him far more than they did Shi Chuan Kong. Guiding the refined energy, Han Li funneled it toward his third profound acupoint. Days passed in silent cultivation. At last, a bright spark of starlight ignited along his calf, and the third acupoint began to open beneath the torrent of power. White radiance from the massive root above bathed his body, weaving with the star power as he remained immersed in trance. At that very moment, 3 thread-thin white insects drifted down from the luminous root. Their translucent bodies blended with the falling light, nearly invisible. Soundless and still, they floated toward Han Li, who sensed nothing while absorbed in cultivation. They landed upon his shoulder and instantly melted into his flesh. The moment they entered his body, the insects sprang to life, burrowing like living needles toward his heart. Han Li's eyes flew open. Clinging to his heart, the black tribulation centipede stirred, a dark glimmer flashing in its eyes as though awakening from slumber. That creature alone was already a blade at his throat. If it lost control, death would come without mercy. Han Li immediately set his entire body vibrating, muscles, tendons, and bones resonating in layered pulses. Shock waves rippled through his meridians, slowing the insect's advance, yet they still crawled forward relentlessly. Cold light flashed in his gaze. He struck his chest with 2 fingers in rapid succession, 3 bursts of force penetrating inward like thunderbolts. The insects stiffened briefly, yet their bodies proved astonishingly tough, resuming their crawl moments later. By now, they were dangerously close to his heart. The centipede's agitation grew sharper with each breath. Urgency surged through Hanli's expression. A brilliant translucent glow erupted from his glabella as 3 tiny spiritual swords shot forth, piercing straight into his own chest. Blood bloomed, but he ignored it entirely. Guided by divine sense, the swords tunneled through flesh and organs, hunting the intruders within. Though the insects' bodies were resilient, they were no match for the sword observation arts. In flashes of light, they were diced apart, falling lifeless within him. The instant they perished, the black tribulation centipede calmed, sinking once more into dormancy. Relief barely had time to settle before pain surged. Han Li spat out a mouthful of blood. The spiritual swords had torn his internal tissues badly. Yet he did not pause to heal. From his glabella, 3 translucent chains shot forth, plunging into his wounds and hooking onto the insect's severed remains, dragging them out of his chest. Flesh split wider, blood flowing freely. Only then did Han Li circulate the great universe origin arts. White starlight gathered like drifting snow, sealing the wounds in the blink of an eye. His gaze hardened as he studied the tiny corpses in his palm. Had he reacted even a breath slower, those creatures would have reached his heart. And judging from the centipede's response, the result would have been nothing short of catastrophe. These insects clearly existed within the arena itself. That meant someone had deliberately guided them to him. And the first face that surfaced in his mind was Scarface. After steadying his breath, Han Li cleaned the blood from his body and stepped outside. Many gladiators were gathered in the cavern hall, Scarface among them. Warm greetings rose when they saw Han Li return from cultivation, but Scarface's eyes flickered unnaturally before he turned away in silence. Han Li responded calmly, casting a brief, cold glance his way before walking toward Chenlin's chamber. He knocked. Moments later, the stone door opened. "Fellow Taoist Li, to what do I owe the visit?" Chenlin asked with mild surprise. "May I come in?" Han Li replied gravely. "Of course." Once inside, the door closed behind them. Chenlin gestured for him to sit. "You seem troubled. Did something occur?" Han Li recounted the entire incident without omission. Chenlin leapt to his feet, eyes wide. "You survived that? That's unbelievable." "Why do you say so?" Han Li asked. "The creatures you described are heart-pitting insects," Chenlin said solemnly. "They originate from Heart-Devouring Valley and are mortal enemies of Black Tribulation centipedes. When they meet, one must die. Had they reached your heart, your fate would have been sealed. Hanli let out a bitter chuckle. Then it seems fortune favored me today. Scarface did it, didn't he? Chenlin said at once. Who else? Hanli sighed. Ordinarily, gladiators can't leave their zones, Chenlin mused. Scarface is the only one here who could obtain such creatures. Does he hold special authority? Hanli asked. Not exactly. He has a relative working as an administrator in the city lord's manor. Through that connection, he smuggles items from outside to trade within the arena. On top of that, he's close with Toxic Dragon. No one dares offend him, which has only made him bolder. Hanli nodded slowly, eyes deep in thought. Before this, he had viewed Scarface as little more than an irritant. Now he understood. This man had already drawn a blade in the dark. From this moment on, Hanli knew he would have to walk every step with vigilance, for the arena was no longer merely a battleground of strength, but one of hidden schemes and silent killing. Hanli bowed his head in gratitude. Thank you for your counsel, fellow Taoist Chen, he said, preparing to take his leave. Chenlin's voice grew urgent. Don't be hasty, fellow Taoist Li. Scarface alone may pose no threat, but, as the old saying goes, before you strike at the dog, know who holds the leash. Toxic Dragon sees Scarface as a loyal hound, and if you kill him, you'll have Toxic Dragon as an enemy, for sure. Hanli's expression hardened. Hasn't Toxic Dragon already turned against me? If he intends to come after me, then what harm is there in eliminating Scarface? He retorted. Even if you're not afraid of Toxic Dragon, there are still rules to follow. Personal matters can be settled privately here, but a life and death battle must take place in the arena. If you kill someone outside of the arena, you will invite severe repercussions, Chenlin reminded him. Hanli faltered, returning to his seat, and Chenlin sighed with relief. I'm glad you understand. Hanli smiled. You have my thanks, fellow Taoist Chen. Before you go, there's something I'd like to give you, Chenlin said after a brief pause. He left the room, returning with a black stone box. Scarface is relentless. Take this. It might spare you trouble later. Hanli frowned. What is this? Chenlin's face turned serious. It's a heavenly star shell. It's an advanced tool here. You've seen it at the exchange center, haven't you? There's no devilish chi in this place, and devilish treasures are ineffective, so it's tough to set up restrictions. The heavenly star shell, however, is considered a valuable tool. Hanli's eyes narrowed, recalling the name from the exchange hall. I remember it now, but it's far too precious for me to accept. Chenlin chuckled. You misunderstand, fellow Taoist Li. I'd like to offer it to you for free, but I've had some recent financial difficulties. This is an old one. Its star power nearly depleted. I bought a new one for my own safety, so this one's been gathering dust. Hanli hesitated, but Chenlin continued, I can let you have it for half price. I've already spent all my points on beast cores, Hanli said with a wry smile. All I have left are tarot beast cores. No matter, Chenlin replied. You can have it for now. I'll wait for the payment after you win a few more battles. Reluctantly, Hanli accepted. Thank you again. He took the black stone box, opening it to reveal a palm-sized shell. Chenlin explained, It's already marked with my blood essence. Simply add yours, and it will recognize you as its new master. Once done, place it near your door. It'll emit star power, preventing anyone from entering unless they force their way through. It will also protect you from pests like heart-pitting insects. Hanli cupped his fists in gratitude. I'll remember your kindness, fellow Taoist Chen. Back in his room, Hanli pricked his finger, dripping blood essence onto the shell. In a flash of white light, the shell's patterns glowed, and a soft, protective light surrounded his door. Hanli nodded to himself. It was clear the heavenly star shell still held considerable star power. After some thought, Hanli sat back on his stone bed and consumed a tarot beast core. He began to cultivate his wingform ascension arts. A month swiftly passed. Hanli was seated in deep meditation, his body radiating faint light as he had now opened 41 profound acupoints. He had consumed tarot beast cores to expand his acupoints, enhancing his strength. The stillness of the room was broken by the sound of a buzzing badge by his bedside. Hanli's gaze sharpened as he picked it up. Rising from his bed, he made his way outside and saw a larger crowd than usual in the 9th area. The horned man who had greeted him before spoke with a smile. You'll have to wait for the current match to end. Fine, I'll wait, Han Li replied calmly, sitting down in the waiting hall. Soon, the battle ended, leaving gladiator bodies in its wake, one with a hole in their head, the other with a gaping chest wound. The horned man re-entered the venue, announcing, "Today, the human gladiator who triumphed over the tiger-scaled beast returns. Li Feiyu faces a mountain-plowing ape. Can he defy the odds again with less than 40 acupoints?" The crowd erupted in cheers. "Li Feiyu! Li Feiyu!" From the VIP booth, Chen Yang sat alone, his gaze narrowing. "I don't know how you won before, but facing a mountain-plowing ape is different. Miracles don't repeat." As the gong sounded, signaling the battle's start, the stone door slowly opened. Han Li walked out, his demeanor as calm as ever, ready for the challenge ahead. Amidst the echoes of disdain that had greeted Han Li in his first clash, a stark contrast unfolded in the arena. A murmur of respect laced the air, but Han Li remained unmoved, his gaze unwavering upon the stone door across the arena. Slowly, the door groaned open, heralding a roar of primal fury from the darkened tunnel beyond. Out of the shadows emerged a towering beast, an ape of immense proportions, standing over 30 feet tall, its body covered in jade-like scales, arms as thick as tree trunks. Battle scars marred its form, hinting at its many encounters with death, each mark a testament to its relentless strength. Han Li's brow furrowed slightly, his mind sharpening as the beast slowly circled the platform. The silence between them was thick with tension, only broken by the growing impatience of the spectators. With a sudden motion, the ape raised its mighty arms and brought them crashing down onto the platform, shaking the very ground beneath Han Li's feet. As dust and debris swirled in the air, the ape vanished from sight, only to reappear above Han Li in a flash, its massive form descending with the speed of a falling mountain. The air around Han Li thickened, pressing down on him with suffocating force. Yet in a blink, his wing form ascension arts flared to life, carrying him 100 feet away in an instant, narrowly avoiding the crushing blow. The mountain-plowing ape, relentless in its fury, surged forward with astonishing speed, its fists aimed at Han Li's head. Han Li, bracing himself, struck with his own fist, the impact sending tremors through his entire body, each bone in his frame shuddering from the force. The ape roared in surprise, but its strength only grew, forcing Han Li to retreat, his body crashing against the wall of the arena with a brutal force. Pain surged through him, but there was no time to pause. The ape lunged again, swinging its fist with devastating might. Han Li dodged by a hair's breadth, then, with a surge of power, launched himself into the air, his fist glowing with white light. His blow landed with a thunderous crack against the ape's knee, causing it to falter. Seizing the opening, Han Li struck again, this time sending a mighty blow into the ape's skull. The ape reeled, crashing to the ground in a heap. Without hesitation, Han Li rose into the air once more, combining his wing form ascension arts with his great universe origin arts. His foot struck the ape's head, but the creature, refusing to yield, opened its cavernous mouth and unleashed a fierce, blinding light from within, a sharp tooth lancing toward Han Li's chest. A sharp gasp escaped him as the light grazed his skin, tearing through his protective film and leaving a searing gash across his chest. Pain shot through his body, but he fought through it, his fist hammering down with renewed fury, each blow a strike against the ape's skull. The crowd erupted into wild cheers as the ape's head sank into the ground, but Han Li's battle was far from over. His fingers, bloodied and raw, struck the ape's temple, but the skull remained unyielding. In a moment of shocking violence, the ape lashed out with both arms, striking from unexpected angles. Han Li barely managed to avoid the fatal blow, springing back just in time. With a low roar, the mountain-plowing ape heaved itself free from the crater, its face a grotesque mask of blood and ruin. The crowd's jeers shifted to cruel mockery as the ape, its eye destroyed and nose shattered, struggled to rise. Despite his pity for the beast, Han Li steeled his heart. In this arena, they were both nothing more than tools for the amusement of others. Yet his own survival was at stake, and he would not falter. The ape, now consumed by rage, charged at him once more, its fists imbued with a terrible power. Han Li's body blurred as he used his wingform ascension arts to evade, but the ape's power was undeniable. Its fists struck the ground with earth-shaking force, sending Han Li flying through the air, his body battered and torn by the sheer magnitude of the blows. Each impact left the platform in ruin, and as the battle raged on, neither combatant showed signs of yielding. In the arena, Hanli barely managed to steady himself as the mountain plowing ape, with a roar that shook the heavens, charged at him. The force of its punch was so swift that Hanli had no time to evade, and he crossed his arms, bracing for the strike. A thunderous crash rang out as the punch sent him hurtling through the air, crashing into the stone wall with such force that his insides churned violently. Blood surged to his throat, but before he could even cough it up, another blow struck, sending him crashing once more. Pain tore through his body as he fought to retain consciousness. Blood and agony clouded his vision, yet he pushed his legs to launch himself into the air, desperate to escape, but the mountain plowing ape's colossal hand descended like an avalanche. Hanli braced himself as the ground itself seemed to tremble under the impact. His body was buried beneath debris, but the beast showed no mercy, continuing its barrage with punishing fists. In the midst of the dust, Chen Yang stood in the VIP booth, his eyes narrowed as he muttered to himself, "I overestimated him? Does the city lord wish him dead?" The crowd roared, but Hanli remained motionless, his body drenched in blood, his arms held before him in a final act of defiance. His vision blurred, and despite desperate attempts, his bloodline powers refused to awaken. Time was running out. Just as hope seemed lost, Hanli's eyes flared wide. A streak of translucent light shot from his forehead, vanishing into the air. In the blink of an eye, a small spiritual sword appeared, piercing the mountain plowing ape's eye, and halting its fist inches from Hanli's head. The crowd felt a wave of intense spiritual pressure, and the dust was blown away by a gust of wind. What they saw left them speechless. The mountain plowing ape lay still, while Hanli, battered and bloodied, struggled to stand atop its head. The ape's body remained alive, but its soul had been shattered by Hanli's spiritual sense sword. With a grimace, Hanli thrust his hand into the ape's eye socket, retrieving its beast core. As its chest finally stilled, a cheer erupted from the crowd, although confusion lingered over how Hanli had achieved victory. Hanli, trembling, consumed the core, blood pouring from his wounds before slipping into unconsciousness. When Hanli regained his senses, he found himself in a blood-soaked mist, his body screaming in pain as he tried to rise. The scent of blood filled the air, and his body was a canvas of agony. The horned man's voice reached his ears, reminding him that his time in the blood pond had been extended. Hanli, gritting his teeth, stood and noticed the remains of another gladiator. The horned man explained that Hanli's choice of the mountain plowing ape had forced the other man into a deadly battle with a black-scaled elephant, and the price had been his life. After another round of injuries and recovery, Hanli, his body strengthened by the mountain plowing ape's beast core, returned to the exchange hall. He purchased tarot beast cores, expanding his profound acupoints. Over the course of a month, his cultivation advanced at an extraordinary pace, opening 42 acupoints, with a 43rd on the verge of being unlocked. Yet his rapid growth had to remain concealed, for the path to true power was fraught with peril. When he entered his next arena battle, he faced a gladiator with 38 profound acupoints, stronger in offensive skill but slower than the mountain plowing ape. Hanli exploited these weaknesses, defeating his opponent swiftly, earning a reputation in the 9th area. His odds in the arena were now considerably lower, but his victories drew ever larger crowds. Even as his fame grew, Hanli remained vigilant, knowing that every battle brought him closer to his ultimate goal. Months passed, and Hanli continued to fight with relentless determination. His name became known throughout the 9th area, and many gladiators sought his favor. One night, as he practiced the wing form ascension arts, a knock came at his door. Hanli opened it to find Chen Lin, his next challenge, waiting.